Financial Planner, Flow on YouTube.
The Cabal's agenda is starting to backfire. What's next? Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now we can see that the Cabal, well, they might be getting themselves into hot water, and everything that they're doing might be backfiring right now, because we can see that Mueller right now, the special counsel looking into Trump with the collusion of Russia, they've subpoenaed the Podesta group, and this is actually not going to be a good sign. We also see that the FBI turned down a lawyer's request for release of FBI files on Hillary Clinton, faulting the lawyer documents for not providing enough proof that the public is not really interested in the emails. Now, why would this have to do with anything? Because, first of all, the reason why you're looking into this, and the reason why the FBI is looking into this, to see if there was a crime committed. It doesn't matter if the public is interested or not interested, and this is a Freedom of Information request. It really doesn't really matter. But we can see right now that they don't want to hand certain information over. And this is actually very, very strange. And we can see with other parts of what is happening within the country that things are very strange. Now, we know the corporate media, they've been kind of hiding the fact that Antifa, well, they've been behind a lot of the riots. They've been pushing their agenda to make it look like they're out there, protesting hate when actually they're spewing hate. And what's very interesting is the National Review editor Rich Lowry asserted Tuesday that Antifa is on the same moral plane as the Nazis because both groups use violence and terroristic tactics to achieve their goals. Now, Lowry said that the media created a false narrative in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that it would not allow people to denounce the violence of Antifa and accuse them of supporting Nazis. Now, the fact is Antifa and Nazis are on the same moral plane, he said. They both are violent. And this is exactly what we've been seeing. Now, all you have to do is Google Antifa, and you'll see the event after event that they promote violence. But the corporate media has been covering this up. They don't want people to know. They keep it very, very quiet. Now, from all of this, we can see there's a lot of newscasters out there saying, yeah, what we've been seeing is that they have been very violent, and a lot of them are starting to speak out to say that, there's a problem here. And the Cabal's plan to create this civil war seems to be backfiring a little bit, and maybe things aren't going as planned. Now, out in Ukraine, it looks like Ukraine kidnapped a Russian journalist, Anna Kurbatova, and she is currently being held at an undisclosed location near Kiev, and it looks like she's eventually, hopefully, going to be deported back to Russia. And we can see right now that she's being held. Russia, the Russian Foreign Ministry, strongly criticized Kiev's regime kidnapping and illegal detention of a Russian civilian journalist. And we can see right now Ukraine is still playing the games. They still are trying to get back parts of their country where they voted themselves away. Crimea voted themselves away. The southeastern people don't want to be part of the puppet regime, which was put into place by the U.S. Government, the Cabal, and they don't want to be part of this. But we can see their agenda. They're still pushing their agenda to go forward with this. Now, we know that North Korea, they fired a missile, it flew over Japan, and this is the first time that North Korea was out there, and they acknowledged that, yes, they fired a missile, and they were out there telling everyone about this. All the other times, it wasn't really them acknowledging they fired missiles. It was the corporate media that was acknowledging this and showing the world that, look, here's another missile. Oh, here's another missile. And the reason they were doing all of this is to make you believe that North Korea was getting prepared and ready to attack, which is completely fake, phony, and false. What they're really doing is they're preparing to defend themselves against the Cabal so they can't invade the country and have a puppet government put into place and have Kim Jong-un removed from office. And this is what they're really doing there. We see a day after North Korea fired a missile, it looks like the U.S. wanted to show North Korea that they have the ability to shoot it down. And it looks like the U.S. Missile Defense Agency said that a U.S. Navy destroyer in the Pacific shot down a medium-range ballistic missile during a test off Hawaii. This was the USS John Paul Jones, and it intercepted the target with an SM-6 missile. And you have to remember, when they shoot these things down, they know exactly the altitude, the trajectory. They know exactly what type of missile it is, and they show that, yes, they can shoot that down. But if there was a real missile, they wouldn't know where it was being launched from. They wouldn't know really maybe what type of missile it was. And I think at the point where they find out all this information, if they can, it would be a little bit too late to shoot it down. And these are all pre-planned to make you think that they have everything under control. Now, China and Russia, they are set to sign a milestone agreement in October on a joint space exploration from 2018 to 2022, sending manned missions to the moon for the first time. And this is a bilateral agreement. It will cover 5 areas, including the lunar and deep space exploration, developing special materials, collaboration in the area of satellite system, Earth remote sensing, and space debris research. And it looks like the first module of the Chinese space station Beijing is expected to be launched in 2018. And they're competing with the United States. And with China and Russia working together, most likely they're going to bypass the United States. We could see the entire new economic system being formed right now. We see China, Russia, the BRIC nations, they're setting up the Belt and Road system. They duplicated everything from the west to the east, even the space program now, and they're dealing outside of the dollar. So we can see right now at this point that things are moving forward, and China and Russia and the rest of the BRIC nations, they're getting ready to detach themselves from the U.S. and the dollar currency. Now, we see that Russia, well, they're making deals with Qatar now. And this is the two of the world's largest energy producers. And they vow to increase trade ties at a time when there's boycotts on Qatar. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, "We are committed to bolstering trade and economic ties." He added that Moscow attached great importance to economic cooperation, including energy, between the two countries. And again, this is going to be a problem for the U.S. because we can see that Qatar is moving closer to Iran, moving closer to Russia, and this is going to continue. And you're going to see later on that Saudi Arabia is going to be moving closer to Russia and China. Egypt is moving closer to China and Russia. And yesterday we mentioned on the report that Egypt, well, they were invited to join the BRIC system. So what are we seeing here? China, Russia, they are bringing in all the countries. They're setting everything up for the Belt and Road. And they're bringing all the countries on board. And we can see right now that as they keep pushing this agenda, it's going to hurt the United States. And as they keep doing this, the United States is going to lose out unless we join the changing world. Right now, the dollar dominance is coming to an end. The reserve currencies always have a certain lifespan. It's been 45 years or so. The debt is completely out of control. They've been keeping the economy alive through negative interest rates. They've been keeping the economy alive with very low interest rates here in the United States. They've been pushing stimulus all around the world, propping up the banks, and also manipulating the stock market. And we can see right now that this central bank economy, it's done for. It is doomed at this point, and other countries are recognizing this. This is why they've been purchasing a lot of gold. This is why they've been setting up everything very slowly. All of this has been done over time. It hasn't happened overnight. We've been following it. We've been tracking it. And we understand that this has been happening over time. Now, the plan of the Cabal was to take over the Middle East, go into Iran, get Venezuela, and control all the oil. And eventually have a one world government using the TPP. All of this is falling apart. Everything that they've done has backfired. And it's even getting worse for them because everyone's starting to point out that Antifa, well, they're the ones who are causing the violence. And right now, the Cabal pretty much has lost Syria. It has lost Iraq. We see right now that Jordan and Iraq, they reopened their only border crossing, saying security had been restored 3 years after the Islamic State group seized control of frontier areas. The reopening of the post is a sign of increased stability in the area, and restoration of commercial traffic will be important for the economies of both countries. And again, this was shut down so they could have, troops and equipment being moved back and forth. And we could see at this point that the control is being moved back to Jordan and Iraq. It was closed down with little small openings where they allowed all this to go back and forth. The same thing with the Syria border between Iraq and Syria. Iraqis and the Syrians, they have taken control of that border. Lebanon has been taking control with Syria of their border. And we can see right now the entire plan is coming to an end. Now it looks like Assad, Hezbollah, and Lebanon, they made a peace deal between the Islamic State. They wanted them to leave the border, and the Lebanese government was part of this. And basically the agreement was to return the 9 fallen Lebanese soldiers to the government in exchange for its fighters' safe passage to leave the border area. Now, the United States is out there saying that, no, this is not going to happen, and we might strike the Islamic State. Now, to me, what the Cabal is doing right now is they're cleaning up. They don't want these individuals out there. They don't want them talking. They realize it's all coming to an end, and they're trying to stop all of this. And right now, we can see that the Cabal, they're at their end game at this point. There is nothing left for them to do except have some type of an event. And we've been saying this for a very long time. There's been a lot of warnings out there. There's been a lot of travel warnings. And we can see from the economy right now, and a lot of people are looking at this fall, where they're saying that, things are going to hit a certain point where things start to fall apart. I don't know if it's going to happen this fall. Maybe it'll happen in the spring of 2018, or maybe it'll go a little bit longer. We don't know the exact date. We don't have a crystal ball where we're looking into it and we're predicting when this is going to happen. What we have been doing all of this time is tracking everything to show that, no, this economy is not improving. The situation around the world, because it's all tied in with the economy. It's not like, oh, we have the Middle East and it's separate and apart. That is part of the economy. The central banks are part of the economy. Everything that they've been doing over these many, many years is to keep this system alive any way they possibly can. They didn't care if they killed women and children as long as they kept their system alive. And when I say it's their system, they profit from this system. They like this system. And we can see over the many, many years, the dollar has been devalued. The middle class has been wiped out. They've been stealing all the wealth. But they don't care because the central banks, they have no allegiance whatsoever. They don't have an allegiance to a country, group. The allegiance is to themselves. And we can see right now, they most likely are setting up shop in China. That is the place they're going to move because they know once they run this system to the ground, they're going to say, okay, let's have some type of an event so they're not blamed so they can restart the system. This is how they work. And most of the time, they try to bring us to war. And this is what they've been trying to do. Actually, they didn't want Trump in office. This is a problem for them. They wanted Clinton because they were assured that she would bring us to war. She wouldn't be sitting back looking at North Korea, looking at Ukraine, looking at all the Middle East. Troops would have been piling in right now. We would have been seeing event after event after event, just like during Obama's time. Think about all the false flags that we saw to push their agenda. That's what we would have been seeing. Right now, it's a little bit tougher because they have this individual that they never wanted. He's not part of the Republican Party. He's not part of the Democratic Party. He's not, right now, that I don't think so, completely compromised by the Cabal. I think he's still trying to fight because if he was completely compromised, guess what? We'd be going into North Korea already. Troops would have been piling into Syria. And we can see that this is definitely not happening. So what we're seeing right now is that the Cabal, they are having major, major problems. And at this point, all they have left is some type of an event. This is why Nikki Haley, who's definitely part of the Cabal, you can see that she continually talks in absolutes. Talk, that time is over. We need action. We need to go in there. We need to do something. And this is exactly what they're planning. And once again, I think it's going to be a combination of many different things if they can get this off the ground. I don't know if they really can, because if the economy comes down and they can't produce some type of an event, guess what? The people around the world, they're just going to blame the central bank because they've been managing the economy. They've been telling us that the economy is doing well. And if it comes down, all fingers are going to be pointing to them. This is going to be a major problem for them. So they're going to have to really push their agenda very hard to get this war started. And I'm thinking they're going to have to really push now because time is definitely running out. And everyone needs to be prepared because this whole thing can go at a moment's notice.